Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to share the dreams that I told y'all that I found in some journals. I found these two journals. Well, I actually found about 5 journals, but I hadn't really lost them, but they were just in a different place, and I had, I've been going through a lot of my journals and stuff to share with y'all. And so it was Saturday night. I was sitting in a different chair in my living room because I was charging my phone and my charger wasn't working in my chair. So I kind of just went across the living room and was sitting in a different chair as I was watching like a preacher or something that night. I can't remember what I was watching. But anyway, Bobby had gone to bed because he had to go to work that night because of all the snow last week. So they had to work on Saturday night, which normally he doesn't. And so I was sitting in that chair and I just kind of looked across the living room to the chair where I sat, and I have like a little table beside my chair. And as I looked, and it has a glass front cabinet door, and I looked at the bottom of that, and I saw these journals, and I was like, oh my goodness, I bet I have some dreams in there. I just need to pull them out and just start reading through them. And so I'm going to share with y'all 3 of the dreams. There was actually more than that, but most of those are just like personal type dreams and stuff. So the 3 I'm going to share, the first one I'm going to share is the one my older daughter had. And I want to show y'all the date on this. She had this February 28th, 2014. See if you can see that. February 28th, 2014. Okay, so anyway, so this was actually the 28th. Okay, so I found this Saturday night. I don't remember what date that was, but literally it's almost exactly 7 years from when she had this dream. And when Danae had the dream, she actually sent it in a text, and then I called her afterwards and just kind of got more details. But what she sent in the text is pretty much what I put here, and I remember actually calling her and talking to her about it also. So anyway, so I'm just going to read it from the book, and then I'm going to kind of share with y'all my take on it, because what's very interesting about her dream is, I think it was last week or the week before when I shared what I believe that the Lord had showed me for 2021, about, our fight has to be in the spirit when we can't fight by our flesh. In this year, because the battles we're going to be facing we have to have the wisdom of God. We have to have the keys to the kingdom. And one of the things that I was sharing in that video, which I feel with all my heart, because I just feel like this 2021 season, I feel like God is literally changing the heavenly realm, where we have the Bible says we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and dominions. So there are in the heavenly realm, on this realm, we have like these small little demon things we fight against. But in the heavenly realm, there's dominions and powers and principalities that literally rule over countries. And I felt like what God was showing me, that I shared on that last, if y'all haven't seen that video, go back and listen to it, because I share about this. And about Queen Esther, and how I felt like, that this is that moment that we're in. We are in like a Queen Esther moment, which is crazy, because last night I was listening to a video, Amanda Grace, she was on Elijah List. Go find her and listen to it. She is literally talking about the things that my sister and I have been talking about for several weeks now. But, and she was talking about we're in a Purim moment, which is Queen Esther. That's when, they were trying to kill and persecute the Jews. And so anyway, I was sharing on that video last week how I felt like God was pulling down principalities and powers and dominions over our country. And that is the war we're in. We are literally in a war for our nation. And so anyway, Danae's dream. So I will say this, in Revelations, sometimes angels are, those kind of, those high principalities, they're called stars. They're called stars because, everything is kind of symbolic in Revelation. So anyway, I wanted to say that so you'll understand this when I start reading it. Okay, so this was her dream. Okay, and I put in here, in her words via text. She was outside, and the stars, or what looked like stars, were falling and moving around in the heavenlies. Then, all of a sudden, she sees this plane come crashing down, And she said, all I could do was run. Then she said it was like a Groundhog Day moment where she went back in the dream and she actually lived through it. She lived it differently. She lived through it, and then it flashed to the future. This is what's crazy. It flashed to the future. And she said, I saw Mackenzie as a 10-year-old. Y'all, Mackenzie is 10 now. I remember when she had this dream, I was thinking, well, that is so far away. This was 2014. This was literally almost 7 years ago. And so I remember when she told me the dream, I was like, oh, that is so far away. We got plenty of time till whatever this is going to happen. So anyway, so she said, I saw Mackenzie as a 10-year-old. So it was like, she says, it seemed like it was maybe the beginning of a war or the beginning of the end times. Like, I feel like it's a new era. And so she says, I don't know all of that. I just remember someone saying that it was going to be 27 season changes from now, which would put it, so February, that would put it around November, December. So think about that, a season, really around, I guess around the Rosh Hashanah, God's season would be, his new year would be around Rosh Hashanah time. And that's also when our election was held. Hello. And so anyway, think about that. So our nation is literally in a Kairos moment, which means a God-appointed time right now, and God wants to see these evil things, these evil deities that have ruled over our nation, that, those kind of things, God wants those to fall, but it takes someone like a Queen Esther, and I'm talking about as a whole church. It takes Queen Esther's praying and contending for the overthrow to happen. Because if Esther wouldn't have said anything, Haman would have got away with the crime. So, Haman was trying to destroy the children of Israel. And so, anyway, this is just such an amazing dream. How God showed Danae there would be stars falling. And so, also, this is kind of interesting. So go on to the dream. So I actually wrote in here, I said, which is 6.75 years. And she said what upset her is that Josh had what she thought was Micah, because Micah was a baby, but now she has Malachi, another one that's like the same, too, a baby. And so anyway, she also saw this, she saw the plane crash. Remember the plane crash she saw the stars fall, and then she saw a plane crash. In the plane, I remember her telling me this dream. She said that it's like, she's like on a plane tarmac or something. And she said she saw the plane crash, and she says everybody starts running. And she said she was hiding because she knew, this is what she said. She said they were a family that had controlling power. They were a very controlling, powerful family. And she said they were of a different nationality. Like, she wasn't sure if they were like Arab or Iranian or it could be Asian. She wasn't sure, but they were a different nationality. Is that not crazy, y'all? And so anyway, I felt like that dream, when I read that, I was like, what are the chances, other than a supernatural thing, of God putting that book, that letting me sit in a different chair, looking across the room and seeing that journal exactly at the time frame that dream said we would be in. There are no coincidences with God. There are God moments, and that was like a God moment. So I wanted to share that with y'all, and y'all be praying, because that thing I was listening to last night, and I love Amanda Grace. My sister and I have been watching her for several years now. And she was talking about what God showed her, that 2021 was a year where we will be wrestling for our country, the church. And I know, and I just want to say this, I know everybody doesn't have the same call of intercession and like a watchman for the country, as I do, my sister does. Like, I have learned over the years, because God gives me so many dreams about the country, about presidents and things like that, that I have finally learned in my older age, that is literally one of my assignments. And so when it's your assignment, you have grace to be there. I have grace to intercede. God gives me insight. He gives me He shows me things because he's showing me things to pray, and I don't always share everything that God, I usually share them with my sister because we both have, we both have a lot of dreams about it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go into my second dream. And my second dream was a lot like Danae's, which this is, not exactly like Danae's, but it showed me, it kind of like ties together, which is amazing. In this dream, I'm going to show you the date on this dream. It was August 10th, 2012. See that? 8, 10, 12. Okay, so her dream was in January 2014. So this one was actually 2 years even before that, but I found these dreams at the same time. So, okay. I had a dream, and it was like the end times. And there were watchers. We were watchers. My family were together. Okay, and so we were looking up at the sky, and it was at night. And there would come, as we looked up at the sky, there would come signs that the watchers would see. Not all the watchers were Christians. Some were just people who could see our constitutional rights being taken away. Hello? But our family were watchers because we saw things as a sign of the times. All of a sudden, the end time events all started being shown to us as signs, like bam, 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 everything lining up quickly. I thought it would be more slowly, but it was very quickly. Then these last two signs aligned simultaneously, and we looked up, me, Bobby, Mackenzie, Dina, our families, all of our families. We were together, and we were traveling to try to escape from what we saw coming. And we looked into the night sky. And as I saw the sky, I saw these gifts in the sky, the frankincense, the myrrh, and other gifts. And I knew that this represented the church. Then I also saw this high towering skyscraper. But it's not like an American skyscraper. They were more rounded, kind of like what you would think of Babylon in the Bible. You know how you see all those pictures of Babylon when you were a little kid and it was like a circle tower? That's what it looked like. And I looked at Dina and I said, it's Babylon. You know, the Bible talks about Babylon in Revelations, Mystery Babylon. But Babylon represents the world system that will try to take over and control the whole world. And Dina said, yes, it is. And then she says, but I'm glad, because in a way, she seemed a little unsure when she said she was glad, but I knew what she meant. She meant that this was going to happen anyway, so it just was to be now. I was very troubled in my spirit, though. I felt like I wish we had more time. We discussed that all the power, this is crazy. We were discussing that all the powers and government that was at that time in power, they had set everything up and established their authority and had taken all the power and authority and the freedom away from all the people. Only the government and powers had themselves fixed and protected in their positions. And then I awoke and I looked at the clock and it was 6:30 a.m. exactly. Y'all, does that not align with Danae's dream? We see right now across the world government powers trying to establish themselves, trying to take away our everything, our freedoms, our speech, our guns, our everything. They are trying to establish their place and cause everyone else to be in this communistic, socialistic place. But we have got to stand, because I do not believe one bit that we are in that season yet. And now I am going to read a third dream. And y'all, I had completely forgot about this dream. This dream was about President Trump and his family. And I promise y'all, I had completely forgot I had this. And I'm going to show you the date on it. I had this literally probably 8 months after the president was elected, August 2nd, 2017. Y'all see that? Okay, so I had a dream about President Trump last night that a huge group of people had plotted to kill him and some of his family members. Donald Trump Jr. was especially highlighted to me. We were all together and he was running for his life. As a big group of young people also were hunting him down with knives like a gang, but they didn't look like a gang member. These were like regular, what I call yuppie type young people. Somehow, as we had got separated, I was trying to find Donald Jr. to tell him not to hide away in the normal places. As I was running for my life as well, because these people were hunting Christians and anyone that had supported the president. Y'all, is this not exactly what we see going on in our country right now? And when I had this dream, yes, there was a lot of people that hated Trump just because, he wasn't the regular Republican. He wasn't the regular political figure. He literally is not even a true Republican. And I'm not saying the man is perfect, but I am saying that he did not fit into the normal political basket. Okay, so I ran into a room where Eric Trump was sitting quietly, just reading and relaxing. And when I think about Eric, that's kind of how he is. He's nothing like he's just very calm, he's just a different kind of person. Anyway, and I told him what was going on and he needed to run and hide. I saw his phone laying there that he left behind and I grabbed it and called President Trump. The gangster group of these people had Trump trapped. And he said in an almost apologetic, tearful voice to me, I am so sorry. I've done this. I've caused this to happen to my family. They are trying to kill us all. Y'all, I read an article, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I actually read 2 articles about it. It's not really very well known, but there was actually and I think that they were saying that Trump was trying to keep it quiet, but there was actually in his home, supposedly there was a bullet, and he had put bulletproof windows at his where he lives in Florida. But they think it was what are the drones? They think maybe a drone had shot, because there was not any airplanes or helicopters, whatever, in the area. But they think a drone took a shot at him, and anyway, so this is actually, and I know that that's probably happened a lot more than even it gets out. But anyway, he said, I'm sorry, they're trying to kill us all. I finally found where Donald Trump Jr. was hidden, and it was exactly where the place he would need to hide. He hid in a public place in plain sight. He hid at a public fair where a lot of activity was going on. This made this group angry at me. They were chasing me also. And I woke up knowing that there was a plot, not just against the president, but an evil agenda against his whole family and against the Christians and against anyone that would even support them. And so what I wrote down is, as I said, please pray for their protection, especially Don Jr. And y'all know that, like, literally during the last few years, they tried to frame Don Jr. as part of the Russian whatever thing, and so, I literally had forgotten that dream, but, literally the whole thing, all those dreams just really, they're like now, and so I just wanted to share those with y'all. Kind of wanted just to put them out there because, I know people like to know this kind of stuff, and it's very interesting how God can show you something years in advance, literally years in advance. And so, okay, one other thing I want to share this morning before I get off is, I was on Facebook yesterday. I think it was either last night or this morning, and just for a second, I literally went just on for a second. I like to always check my notifications when I first get up in the morning when I'm having my coffee. And I noticed that there was two ministers like right on top of each other, far as like there was a post, her post, and then there was another post. And these are very, in our area, they're well-known ministers. And so one of them had said that the Lord had spoke to her, that it was a season to dance, even if you don't feel like it. And I believe that it is, And then the next one, another minister that I follow, another lady minister I follow, she was saying, basically we're in Purim and it's time to intercede and fast. And, and so I was like looking at that and I was like, it was two different like messages. One is a time of consecration and, basically, hearing from God. And so as I'm listening, as I'm, reading that this morning, I was thinking, people just need direction right now. And I can understand if we are not locked into the Lord, we can be confused with the messages because, like two different messages. And if you're like an immature Christian, you're like, well, what should I do? Should I dance? Should I fast and be sober? And, and so as I was praying about that this morning, I just felt like I wanted to share something that I feel like God has shown me that I feel like will deliver us from trying to, be in somebody else's season. And that's what God showed me is that, we cannot be in somebody else's season and we cannot be in somebody else's assignment. Just like I was sharing with y'all about how, that everybody's not called to, intercede, constantly, for our government officials. And the Bible tells us all to pray. But what I'm saying is everybody's not going to have the same assignment. Like my baby sister, I love my baby sister, and she is like a nurse, and she doesn't have that same call. Matter of fact, she'll pray for our leaders, but it makes her very nervous to, just to even know stuff that's going on, because it's not her assignment. She doesn't have grace for it. But for me, it's not that I always like what I hear or like what I read, but God has given me grace and he gives me insight and he gives me dreams and visions to pray so I know what to pray. And he always brings me across ministers also that are sharing those things. It's God. It's not like I do anything to make it happen. Literally, God just supernaturally causes those kind of people to be on my feed or whatever, my YouTube feed or whatever. So anyway, so I was just thinking about that and I was like, Lord, something the Lord has been speaking to me about since around October. I think about the end of October, November. It was before the election. The Lord showed me, how, that we, as, because we're kind of stuck in our homes right now, or we have been, maybe back then it was kind of like, we were, people just kind of getting out. Some people are still stuck in their homes, but how sometimes you feel like, what can I do? I'm just a little housewife, or, I am raising kids. What can I do? How can I make a difference? And, the Lord started speaking to me about Jael in the Bible and how Jael, this was the story of Deborah and how Deborah was a prophetess. And Deborah, she had a high call on her life. She sat as a judge, judging Israel, during, a time of war. Actually, it was actually a time of war. And I kind of wrote some notes down here about this because I want to share with y'all. But how, we can't get so caught up in trying to compare ourselves to someone that's in a different season, because I might be in a winter season and you might be in a spring season or vice versa. And even if God gives me a word for me, you're over here, you're over here in your winter season and you're like, I don't feel anything. I don't hear the Lord right now. I feel like I'm in darkness. I can't, I can dance right now, but I'm not going to feel it. But that's okay, because God doesn't want us comparing ourselves to anybody else, just like Jael, who was a housewife in a tent, when Deborah was this prophetess, judge, sitting and hearing the voice of the Lord. And so I kind of wanted to just share this really quick, and I'm going to try to make it really quick, because I don't want people to get so fretful that they're not hearing something or they're not in the same season as somebody else, because that is, God doesn't condemn us because he has us all in a different place. So anyway, let me just read this real quick. I just wrote a few little notes, but, Judges 4, you can go read the story if you want to. Deborah was a prophetess who judged Israel. And it says she sat under a palm tree between Ramah and Bethel in the mountains of Ephraim. So I looked up the word Ramah. That means a high place of idolatry. And Bethel was the house of bread. So she was judging in a place between these idolatrous people and the house of bread, which is the house of Israel. So she was stuck, just like we are in America. She was stuck in a place between, you've got the godly people, the Christians, the kingdom of God, and you've got this other side, the kingdom of darkness, just like in my dream. And also, she said, between in the mountains of Ephraim. And Ephraim means double fruit or fruitfulness. So she was fruitful. She was a fruitful person sitting between this idol nation and this house of bread, the church. Okay, so let me go on real quick. It says, so one day she called for Barak. Barak was like the commander of the Israel army. And she said, has God not said, go and deploy troops at Mount Tabor? Take 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali and Zebulun. Now there's 12 tribes, but she only called for 2. She says, call for them, and against you I will deploy Sisera. That's what the Lord is saying. The commander of Jabin's army with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into your hand. So she was saying, God has just spoke to me that you're supposed to get these 2 tribes, take 10,000 men, and God is going to deliver this evil commander and his army into your hand. And so the word Naphtali, these two tribes, one was Naphtali, it means my wrestling, to struggle, and Zebulun is habitation, to enclose and dwell within. And think about that. As the church, we are in this season, we are wrestling for our deliverance. We are wrestling for, for God to overcome evil in this land. But the other name, Zebulun, is to enclose or dwell, the habitation, and we have to do that in a place of habitation of God. It has to be like that other video I did about we have to use the keys of the kingdom, and that's what they're doing. That's what their names are. We wrestle in the place of a habitation of God. Okay, so also Mount Tabor, where they were supposed to go, she says, I will deploy Sisera, Jabin's army, and I will deliver him to your hand. So, okay. She said, go deploy troops at Mount Tabor. So Mount Tabor means a broken region, to be fragile, broken, break, crush, bring to birth. So think about that. The Lord sent them to a place that seemed fragile and broken. And so is that not kind of how we are as a country right now? Okay, so the powerful symbolism is, it's like you can just see it. Okay, so then let me go on. So Sisera, his name means, Sisera, oh, no, I didn't get his name. Sisera, though, should have been like he came from the Nethinim tribe or something like that, which he should have been serving literally the Levites, but he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. Okay, and also it said something about the river Kishon. Something about the river Kishon, or maybe that's here. Let me see. I got myself confused, y'all. Deploy to the, okay. Let me go on. Let me just read this. Let me just go on. River Kishon means it's to set a trap, but I think that's the one on down here. Okay, so Barak told Deborah when she told him to come, she says, I will go if you go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go. Because she had the word of the Lord. And he knew that because she had the word of the Lord, she would know the exact time, the exact minute. She had the word of the Lord in her ear. And he did not want to go without her. And his name actually means like flashing sword, lightning. And anyway, so she said, I will go with you. Nevertheless, there will be no glory for you in this journey, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And so I was like, what does that mean, Lord? That you said that you would sell this evil commander into the house of the woman. Into the hands of a woman. And to sell means to surrender, to merchandise, to sell it. In other words, instead of Sisera getting the glory, instead of Barak getting the glory, he was going to lead the army, but there was not going to be any glory in it. And as a matter of fact, God was going to use a woman. Well, when you read that, you think, oh, it must be Deborah, because, she's going with him, but it wasn't Deborah. So let me go on. So, okay, so then it says, so Barak then called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh. There were with his 10,000 men. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot this part. So they both went. So Deborah and Barak arose and went to Kadesh. Okay, so Kadesh, they went to Kadesh. Kadesh means sanctuary, sacred place, clean, holy, consecrate, prepare, purify, sanctify. So they went to a place to prepare themselves, to sanctify themselves for what was going to happen. Because God always uses a consecrated, set apart people. So, okay, I'm sorry about getting confused with it. So anyway, so Barak then called Zebulun and Naphtali to come also there. And with his 10,000 men. And Sisera, though, remember Sisera had a multitude. So it seemed like, Barak had his 10,000 men. Sisera, this evil king, had a multitude. So it seems like the deck is kind of stacked against him in a sense. So anyway, then the rumor spread, and Sisera heard that Barak had gone to Mount Tabor. Remember Mount Tabor? Fragile, vulnerable place. So when he heard they were in this fragile, vulnerable place, he gathered up his chariots, and it said that he had 900 iron chariots. And then he gathered all his people, and he went down because he heard that they were there. And then Deborah said, "Up, Barak, for this is the day in which the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone before you?" So guess what? So Barak went up with his 10,000 men because the Lord had said, hasn't God already gone up before you? Then the Lord did go before them, and he routed Sisera. Routed means to, he's going to decisively defeat him. And all his chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak and Sisera. And then Sisera took off running. So what happened is, here comes these chariots and everything, and there's Barak, and he got set up. This evil king was set up, and God, with his holy angels, caused the whole evil army just to scatter. And it said that Sisera jumped off his horse, and he just took off running. Well, Barak, what's he going to do? Is he going to pursue the king, or is he going to pursue the chariots and the army? So he pursued the army, and it said not a man was left. The only one, I guess, that was left was Sisera, this evil commander. And so Sisera, he just took off running. He ran and ran and ran. And he said that there was a tent that he was going, there was an area he was going toward where it was the Kenites. And they had, there was peace between this, this nation that lived there. And he fled to the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite. And she came out when she saw him, and she says, "Come into my tent and do not fear." Well, the Jael, her very name means wild goat, to ascend, to be valuable, and to do good. So we know that, God will use even those who you don't think he'll use, for defeating the enemy. Sometimes it's not a person, you think, well, this person is so godly, God is going to use him. Or this person, look, it's going to be them. That's who God is going to use to overcome this enemy. Well, no, God used a wild goat. Someone, not the sheep, the goat. So anyway, so he came in there, and she says, "Come in here, do not fear." And so he came in, and she covered him with a blanket. And he asked for some water, but she gave him some milk and covered him up. And he told her, just stand at the tent door and watch. If you see somebody, basically just tell them, there's no one that's come in here. Well, then guess what? He fell asleep. And Jael then took a tent peg and hammered a tent peg into his temple, into the ground, and he died. And then Barak came back later, and she told him where he could find Sisera. And it says, so on that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan. So the king that was being a tyrant over the children of Israel subdued that king through this young girl. And because the army was also destroyed by God, because he was the one that was given direction to Barak. And it says the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger until even King Jabin was destroyed. And so, when I read that, I was like, we need to understand that even when we cannot do anything but sit in our tent and pray, God will still use a little housewife to kill an enemy and cause a whole nation, an evil. And when I talk about nation, I'm talking about the kingdom of darkness was brought down because of a Deborah who was in her season, because of Barak who wasn't about to go to war without the word of the Lord, and then a little young lady, a little housewife named Jael. They all were in different positions of life, different assignments of life, but they were all in alignment with God. And so I guess that's what I wanted to share, is that don't worry that you're not a Deborah. Don't worry that you're not, this person or that person, or you're not hearing the same thing this person is, because Jael couldn't have been Deborah. She couldn't. If she would have not been in where she was supposed to be, the whole plan would have been, she wouldn't have got the glory for what God wanted to do for her, for just being where God had told her to be. And so, anyway, I hope that I have not made that confusing. I hope that I've made that clear, but I pray that that encourages you to not just listen just because one minister says this. Well, a minister is in a different season too, and sometimes we're in different seasons. Sometimes it's just, we're not going to be where someone else is, and it's okay. Let God put you where he needs to put you, and he will make sure that the voices that you need to hear are put into your life if you will just seek God and be content to be in the season that he's got you in. And so anyway, I hope that just takes some of the strain and the the yoke off of you, that you don't feel that, well, I'm not as spiritual as this person, I'm not hearing this. Just be, if all you are is a little Jael, she got glory that day for listening to God. She was where she needed to be. And thank God for Jael, because the children of Israel grew stronger and had rest and peace from that evil king. So anyway, I pray that the dreams blessed you, and I pray that that word, also, gave you peace and hope that, that God will take care of us. Each one of us, he knows our personality. He knows our assignment. He knows the people to put in our life for what God has for us to do. Anyway, I love you all so much. Thank you for watching my videos. God bless you.